Robbie.
Steven Brooks, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Earlier today, I sent you a link to a Beatles track. Now,
oh yes, it's the Beatles, capital A with an accent over it.
Okay, I don't know. Maybe I just typed that really fast.
Okay, I got it. All right.
You know, the Beatles has their famous birthday song. But they made a track that was for people whose birthday was. It's a belated birthday song.
Oh, right, because this is, okay, so we're recording this the day after my actual birthday.
Yes, yeah. Happy belated birthday. And
thank you.
This is a track that I found that was leaked.
Oh, okay, all right, okay, so I'll play it now. I have not heard this. This is the first time. Okay.
Yesterday.
That is so stupid. Thank you, Robbie. Thank you. I could not have asked for a better birthday gift. I appreciate it. Well, I mean, on this episode, we're talking. We actually get through quite a lot of stuff. We're getting pretty good at this year. We have a healthy How You Doing. We have one story in animation news. We got a trailer talk. We got AI Watch. We got rapid fire, and some recommendations. All in about like an hour and 15 minutes. I don't know how long it's going to be. Like when we actually do it, we're doing pretty good, man.
Tied up into a little bowl.
A little bowl.
Or a bowl.
Tied up into a little bowl. We put it in a bowl and then tied it up in a bow.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna want to, use a bowl to use all this to put all your tasty content that we're providing for you, and you can eat it all up like a bowl of cereal, because it's morning right now.
I was just gonna say, I think that just means Rob is hungry.
Yeah.
Just get breakfast to come here?
Oh yes.
Okay, so we don't have to vamp anymore. We can just get into it. I want to say welcome to episode 302 of the RubberOnion Animation Podcast, and we're calling this one the RubberOnion Guarantee. Yeah, I mean, sure. Listen, we talk about sales, we talk about marketing. That's
right.
Really, it's only because I wrote this down on one of the conferences, and I totally forgot to write down anything else, and you didn't write. So I don't even remember what we talked about. That's fine.
Yeah,
it's
like,
one
what
bit.
Should we call it? That.
Yeah, exactly. All right. It's going to be exactly this professional. Enjoy.
I'm Don Bluth.
I'm Harry Partridge.
Hi, I'm Tom Moore, teenage superhero.
My name's Adam Phillips.
This is Robert Valley.
And I'm in no way doing a forced plug. No, sorry. I won't say that.
And you're listening to RubberOnion.
All right, and we're back 2 weeks later, just as we said.
Look at us, actually saying it and doing it.
I know. It's a miracle. It's a 2025 miracle. Everything's going right this year. Nothing's going wrong.
No, everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
Something going on?
No. There's not a coast that's on fire.
Oh, cool.
One of the greatest directors of our time didn't pass away.
All right, that's good.
No, everything's going great.
Yeah, the government seems to be pretty good, and we still have what I always say, the Gulf of Mexico.
Yes. Yes, the Gulf of Mexico.
The Gulf.
If there is not
the Gulf of Mexico.
If there is not a tournament that is called Gulf of Mexico, I would be, honestly, this is a free pitch to the entire country of Mexico. The Gulf of Mexico, that'd be amazing. Yeah, I mean, let's try. We're gonna try to stay positive. This is something that I said, I think last. I don't know. It's probably for the 300th episode, or maybe our 10-year anniversary. But things had just kind of gotten bleaker and bleaker, and some of that is just being older and being more
cynical,
jaded and affected, and but then also some of it is just Yeah, some of it's real and out there, and kind of makes it hard to look on the positive side. But we're in the 300s now, man. We're looking on the bright side of things.
Yes,
We're getting older now. We don't have time to waste
years
on this
and
negative
years
stuff.
of just a lot of negativity, and now people look to us to brighten up their day. I think.
Yeah. So TikTok died.
Yes, but then it was.
I mean, no, but only for 12 hours in the United States or whatever it was, and what a weird thing. And I only want to bring this up because you have such a following on TikTok.
Yeah.
And I don't use it at all. I would just scroll on it. So when people said that it was going away, I didn't care at all. I actually kind of felt like, yeah, give me that time back. But for some people, it was like, oh no, I had spent all this time on this platform. I had gotten all this I'm going to lose all of that.
Yeah.
Although I think in your case, you never really capitalize on the popularity that you
some
get.
videos have 5 million views and some videos have 10. It's just like because I tend to just not want to capitalize on things. Something's very successful. They go, you should do that again. And I go, nah, I'm going to do something that is going to alienate everyone who's subscribed.
I think we talked about this on the podcast before because we've talked about everything on the podcast before, but I think we're very similar in that way. I have a knee-jerk reaction to do something completely different than what someone wants me to do. Not completely different. I mean, obviously within the realm of whatever, but that's one of the things that kind of got in my way of finishing certain things. Is whenever if anyone asks me like, hey, where's this thing? Or hey, you should do another one of these. That's a surefire way to make sure that I'm not doing that thing.
Yeah. And
it's not because I do it on purpose. It's just there's I think there's a creative drive in some people that is that supersedes the whatever that other thing, the popularity or the hustle or the productivity drive or whatever. You just have this thing where you want to create something, and if someone's asking for it, you don't want to do it. Like it's
I think it's also
then it feels like now I'm on commission, and that's not really what I want to do. I wanted to, but I don't think it's conscious. It's just
it's probably the feeling of like it's not going to be as good as whatever you did before that.
Maybe. I think that feeling comes afterward when I have to rationalize it. I think it's just, that's what I said, it's a knee-jerk reaction. So I never really jumped up on TikTok anyway.
All the endorphins and everything were released when you made the first time, and then Look, I did a follow-up to
a second thing? Yeah, totally.
My Mickey video. Didn't do well the second year. The first year was great. But I did return with TikTok with it's 30,000 views. And it did get removed from TikTok for hateful behavior.
Oh yes, you mean Daffy Duck hitting Elon on the head when he was doing his heavy air quotes Roman salute.
Yeah,
is what he called it.
But people also, to be fair, Hillary Clinton once raised her hand, and they have images of that. That's their defense. It's just still photos of people mid-wave. And just taking out the complete, the fact that he did it with all his chest. His hand sank into his rib cage and then, shot up in the air. I
watched Gladiator 2 this last weekend, and there's also Megalopolis, believe it or not. Megalopolis. Wow, what a stinker.
Oh boy.
It was just amazing. Can I just say something? Let me just skip and let me just say something about Megalopolis. This How You Doing segment, it's always hit and miss, because I think some people enjoy it, and then other people are like, get to the animation stuff, and well, sorry, we're the hosts, so it's exactly what I was saying earlier. What you want is not what you're gonna get.
That's the Rubber Onion slogan.
That's the Rubber Onion promise.
The Rubber Onion Guarantee. What you want, you won't get.
Megalopolis. It was. This is the Francis Ford Coppola movie. He financed. I think he sold off either all of it or a whole bunch of his estate for his wine, his vineyard estate to finance this movie. I think it was something like $150 million. I don't know if that number is correct, but I'm just gonna, aside from the go back to the club, that scene that everyone has seen a million times.
I did not see that.
Oh my God. I'll show it to you later. But right after that, the thing that I think is, I don't know if it's after that or before that, but there's this moment where one of the main characters needs to say entitles me, right? But the way she says it, and let me just say this. I'm going to try my best to quote it. Entitles me. She says it 3 times, and it's high and then low and then high. And I cannot stop thinking about that scene because I think you can't blame that on the actor. All the actors that are in it, we've seen them do great work, but it is a perfect example of how sometimes an actor's job is to give options to the director in the editing room. So I don't know if this was a plan of hers, just to keep reading it. It's like, it kind of reminds me of that Matt Berry. I don't know what show it is, but I've seen Matt Berry in a recording booth, and it's when Clem Fandango comes on. He has one thing that he has to say. It's yes, and they keep directing him to say yes in different ways. Yes. It's great for. I'll send you that one as well. It's great for if you have ever done recording or been directed to do a voice recording. It's just that silly. But she says entitles me. Now that works on its own. Or entitles me, that works on its own. But to do all 3, it's like that doesn't work. Any one of those 3, or the first 2 or the last 2 work. That's a choice that you make in editing, and he just left it all in. There's a moment where apparently he was going to write a monologue, like a speech for Adam Driver to give, and I guess he either wasn't satisfied with it or didn't have one written, and Adam Driver had just played, oh geez, I don't know if it was Hamlet or Macbeth. I can't remember, but I think it was Hamlet. But whatever. He gives this whole monologue.
It had nothing to do with the story, or
oh, it was Hamlet because he says mortal coil. But yeah, it has nothing to do with anything. He just walks in and he just starts quoting Hamlet, and then goes on with the rest of the scene. Oh, there was another one, Dustin Hoffman. I don't know what is with this 3s. Maybe he is. Maybe he's a genius, and everything was 3s. But Dustin Hoffman at one point goes, concrete, and steel. I just, the choices are ridiculous. I just had to say that. The reason I even brought that up is I actually don't know if it was in Megalopolis or if it was in Gladiator 2, but they do have their hands on their chest, and then they do that where they throw their hand high like that. And I just thought, I was just wondering if, like, did Elon Musk just like watch Gladiator 2 over that weekend and go like, I know a way that I can have my cake and eat it too. I'll just call it a Roman salute and be like, hey, look, they did it on Gladiator 2. I was just doing that.
I mean, I swear, he's the type of guy who's just like, oh, you dare me to do it? I'll do it, bro. And like,
that's the thing, is that
he'll do it for the meme.
He'll do it for the meme. He'll do it for, but he's also going to do it to, he tries to curry favor. He tries to, his whole thing is just very sad. He's just a very sad individual, but you can't feel too bad for him because he's like the richest man on the planet and is causing a lot of damage.
Yeah.
I saw Wild Robot.
Oh, speaking of,
let me just shift over to something else. Wild Robot. Listen, it's great. I'll say two things about it. Number one, that trailer. That to me, now that I have seen the movie, that is one of the worst trailers that I've seen for an animated film in relation to what I actually got. I was not very impressed with the visuals in the trailer. I wasn't very impressed with, and not to say that it didn't look good. I'm just saying it didn't pull me in. It wasn't something I was like, oh, that's unique and that's different, and it has like a, it's going to be beautiful, and the something about the robot in the trailer just kind of felt, I don't know, video game-ish or something. I mean, all movies now kind of feel video game-ish, but when you watch the movie, especially the first like 30 minutes. The first 30 minutes is wonderful. It's incredible. It looks great. There is some dialogue, but it's only from the robot. And I actually don't really want to give away how it all happened. But if you've seen The Hunt for Red October or something like that, the way that you end up getting animals who speak, but that's not where you start. And it's really fun. So it's just a fun thing.
In a Bambi kind of way. It's different.
Right. Not from the beginning. Okay. In the beginning, it's just the robot and in the woods and animals and, and everything. And then you have a situation. I mean, you could probably guess, but like it's really neat the way they do it. Even if you can guess how the transition happens, it's neat the way that they kind of do it and visualize it. And there was just some things like the animals. I will say there's more death in it than I was expecting. There's as much death in it as a nature documentary. Like, again, right in that first, I'd say 45 minutes or so. I don't know how many animals die on screen, but it's
all right,
not an insignificant amount. And it's like, there's one that was, I'm just going to tell you this one because it's indicative of the rest. But there's an opossum that you meet, and she has a bunch of kids on her back. They're all very morbid. They all like pretend to die, right? That's the kind of whole bit. And because they have so many kids, she kind of forgets. She's like this brood. This is brood number 4 or whatever. And so none of the kids really have any real identity to her. She doesn't really care. She's just like, I'm just popping them out, And she says, listen, I'm a mother of 7. And then you hear this scream off screen. And then she goes, 6. Like, just one of and you've already met the kids. You've already met all these kids. So like, but the thing is, because they don't have names and they all kind of look very similar. I think it's just I don't know. I'm very curious how it works with kids, but that to me, it kind of felt very 80s in the way that it dealt with, death and stuff. But then once you really get into the characters, all that stuff kind of goes away. Once you are introduced to the characters on an emotional level, they get a little bit nicer with the death, let's say. It's not as freewheeling. But I really liked it. Highly recommended.
I'm all for cartoon deaths. A lot of times
you do it a lot.
Yes, that's I've been known to ruin childhoods. I always said, why do they not have it on camera when Bambi's mom gets shot? You got to learn a lesson. Sometimes. All right, what's the next? When you were talking about the possums, I was going to say, I call the big one Bitey.
Nice. Listen, if there's nothing to offer for this, then I think we just need to move on to our next segment, which is Animation News of the Week. Robbie, did you not know what we were doing? I saw you frantically look around. You're like, wait, what's the next segment?
I'm just making sure all my tabs are set.
Okay, that's fine. Animation News of the Week is exactly what it sounds like. And we only have one story this week, so I don't know why I needed to play the music, but the music doth play. the story, which I now am realizing that on our little document we did not assign people to intro these, so I'm just gonna go ahead and intro the story that let's just all intro the ones that we submitted. Let's do that.
Okay.
An animator has filed a $10 billion lawsuit over Disney's Moana franchise, claiming that it was stoled. That's it.
I mean, that's
the story.
Now, for something like this, I get if it's Disney, it's Pixar, it's something that you claim that it's something that is yours. Is 10 billion a reach? Do you think, or do you think that's a?
I think 10 billion. So 10 billion is. I mean, this is one of those things that we can't talk very much about. I think it's in the law world and the suing world. I think it is proportionate to, I don't know, whatever the company, owns or what they think they got back from it or whatever. It's $10 billion in damages. There's no way that a single person is going to get a $10 billion settlement. I think it's to put a number to something, a severity to something, I guess. I don't know. We'd have to have a lawyer talk about it. But I see this sometimes. Whenever there's a lawsuit and it's some crazy number, they're usually like, that's not really the actual number that they're seeking to get paid. It's a number to attribute to the damages so that they can go line by line through them and they're all worth, similar amount or something. I don't really know how that works.
Yeah.
But basically it says this person, Clement Buck Woodall, had an original project that they made called Bucky, and wrote looks like a screenplay and a trailer, and shared it with someone named Jenny Marchick, who was at the time the director of development for Mandeville Films in 2003. And the studio Mandeville Films had a first look deal with Disney. Now, Marchick is the head of feature film development at DreamWorks Animation. But I guess at the time at Mandeville, requested additional materials like character design, storyboards, production designs, so that she could greenlight the film. And they're saying this lawsuit is saying that essentially all this stuff that he provided ended up finding its way into Moana.
Yeah.
Do you? I mean, I could go on.
It's not completely out of the question. I think, especially to make a sequel to something, a follow up, and to get inspired from someone else's screenplay, has happened. So, but it just seems like, well, you showed me with the concept art was just a guy surfing.
It was a guy surfing. There is another female protagonist. Let me list off some of the things. The similarities which the suit puts, quote, could not possibly have been accidental. And it includes a teenager who sets off on a dangerous voyage in Polynesian waters to save an endangered island. Recurring themes based on Polynesian beliefs, such as the incarnation of spiritual ancestors as animals, a plot involving a necklace, a protagonist encountering a tattooed demigod toting a giant fishhook, and a giant creature inside a mountain. Now, we can't speak to this at all. We're just gonna have to see what happens. But Ron Clements, who, remember a long time ago we talked like this, there's a new project from Ron and John, they're coming back after all these years, this Little Mermaid and Treasure Planet and all these years they come and then they make Moana. Ron Clements wrote it. It's directed with John Musker and Don Hall, and wrote with Jared Bush and John Musker. Said in a court statement pertaining to the first suit, Moana was not inspired by or based in any way on Woodall or his Bucky project, which I learned for the first time after his lawsuit was filed. Now, it's not one of those like he said she said kind of things. It's not really that. It's a little bit more complicated than that, because you have someone who is pitching something, and then they provide all this, and you see all this stuff that are like in development. I just read someone post something on LinkedIn, and they were talking about how they had a project that was in development for all these years, and they have another project, and then it was canceled in like 2022, so it was in development for like 2 years, and now they have another project that's in development, but they're not getting paid for it and everything. And so in development, when someone says in development, in my mind, it's kind of one of those like freelance and contract debates. Remember that we talked about before? In my mind, in development means you have been given money to develop something further, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're in the pitch phase, to me. But I do think that some people say, when they say in development, what they mean is they got a call back for, more information on, more stuff for a pitch. That's how they describe in development. So it sounds like this person entered into a development with this production company who had a first look deal with Disney, and they are saying that this person got all this stuff, pitched it to Disney, and Disney owned it, and probably someone had seen it, word of mouth, it kind of goes around or something like that. It kind of seeps its way into the executive or the development back channels kind of thing. I think maybe the number of things that it has in common could be attributed to just the similarity of Polynesian culture. I don't know much about it deeply, but my understanding about the tattooed demigod with a fishhook is that it is based on, common Polynesian artwork. I don't know. I did not research this, but that is my understanding from
a lot of the
just
elements,
absorbing the behind-the-scenes stuff from Moana the first time.
Yeah, a lot of the elements seem like it's from, stories told in that culture, and like from time to time. So it's not a weird coincidence. It's not like a unique kind of story that you just made up and then they just happen to have that exact story.
I mean, maybe. Like, we don't know for sure, but it sounds...
I'd be the worst lawyer.
Right. You'd be a terrible defendant as well. You know what? You'd be a terrible witness. Just stay out of court. That's my advice to you. I think that this is going to be one of those cases that it comes down to, there was stuff that was, the idea made its way there, and the reason that they even greenlit or that anyone got interested is they're like, oh no, that's really interesting, adventure Polynesian culture. We haven't really, done that as much in the last time with Lilo and Stitch, but what if we kind of, go back in time, we go through all this like fantastical stuff instead of a sci-fi thing, it could have found its way in there that way. This idea is very scary for artists who are like, it sucks pitching. It sucks putting together stuff and then just putting it all out there. And it's kind of like your biggest fear is that you're going to share all this work that you did with someone at the hopes that you will have some sort of partnership or something, and they make you they ask you to do additional stuff, provide additional materials. You spend all this time on your own dime, on your own effort, give it to them, and then a few years later you see they have made a movie that looks remarkably like the thing that you had just done, and it's like, it's a nightmare. It's like it would be impossible for you to not think, maybe they took it from me. But there's probably also other people who had pitched something very similar, it's.
I mean, to see something,
it makes it just very stressful to pitch yourself to someone else. Yeah. That's why people get very guarded on that.
I mean, especially that it was so
guarded.
It was so successful. So that's going to be the even more of salt on the wounds, as they say.
Yeah. Moana made about almost $645 million. Moana 2 has made over $990 million. So, I mean, it's like a 1.5, I don't know, $billion thing, not including all of the merchandise and everything. I understand why this happened. We'll have to see the result of it. I think people are being a little too dismissive of it. But also I think people get very stressed out anytime anyone sues anyone else because they just think, well, I don't know, people like, you're not Disney. I don't know why you're afraid of someone suing you. But yeah, there's a weird thing that happens there whenever suing happens. I think people just don't like suing in general.
Yeah, I mean, suing can be like something major, but then a lot of times it's kind of, people look at it as if it's not you're just crying over a non-issue.
Right.
So
just very dismissive.
Yeah.
Speaking of dismissive,
he might win.
it's time to move on to trailer talk.
He might win that case. He might or lose. Who knows?
Oh! I see what you're doing. Okay, so it's hard to transition from one. Okay, you know what? Let me just say trailer talk. I put the links on there if you want to go to RubberOnion.com/podcast. Go watch the trailers. All right, back to your transition. I mean, do you want to do that? I mean, you know what? It was my thing. I'll transition, but that was wonderful. You're right. He may win or lose, just like Pixar's new series. Did you want to say something?
Oh, I did. I wasn't aware it was a series.
Oh yeah, it's a series. Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Yes, Pixar's new series, Win or Lose.
It's called Win or Lose. It's going to be on Disney Plus February 19th.
Now, I know we kind of go scatterbrain with the designs and story and whatnot. Before we recorded, I said my theory was this was anxiety. But then I feel like In and Out kind of covered all that.
Yes, I would also agree that this is a similar feeling to Inside Out. I think you said In and Out.
In and Out Burger.
Inside Out and Inside Out 2. I think this is probably more kind of inspired by, in the same way that you might hear a surfing Polynesian adventure and go like, oh, that's interesting, and then develop your own thing. I think it's dealing with not just anxiety, but it's how people navigate through the world, and I think it is like the defense mechanisms that you have to kind of help you do that. So in the trailer, the beginning of the trailer, this guy is trying to hit on this barista, and when it's pretty clear that she is not really interested in him, this like Iron Man like suit comes around him, and he starts fumbling and coming up with excuses and things like that. And the more excuses he comes up with, the more the suit kind of develops around him. And I think that it's a different way to visualize that, because I think Inside Out had all the emotions running a control panel, and the idea of all the emotions fighting things. And this one is a bit different. This is like wearing it on the outside. It's if you could see someone's it's not really baggage. It's just the thing that is like the primary driver, the primary defense mechanism, the primary thing that they have. There's someone who, when they are trying to do something, there's like this little blob that I think is saying, like, it's okay. We love this. We love the stress. We love the pressure. It's kind of like trying to tell yourself something to it's what's that called? Reverse psychology. It's trying to reverse psychology on yourself. So I thought it was cute. I will have to say though, we just talked about this last we didn't talk about it, but I think it was on the Rapid Fire last week. This is the show that Disney had was reportedly cut a trans character story.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Getting ready.
So it included a storyline centered on a trans teen girl, and apparently the dialogue has been adjusted to portray the character as a cisgender girl.
Yeah.
It's I guess the Moon Girl. I mean, I haven't seen the show, so I don't really know. But reading this from, because we didn't really go into it last week, but it's let's see.
I will say why.
Okay, sorry, I was just reading it to see if I could. Because I guess there's an actor who specifically spoke out. Deadline got in contact with Chanel Stewart, who was cast after being alerted to the voice casting call for a transgender teenager in 2020 when she was 14 years old. Disney called Stewart's mother to inform her that a few lines of dialogue referencing the character's trans identity would be cut. My character would now be a cis girl, a straight cis girl. So it sounds like she's still voicing the character, but that the identity
just not open about
has been cut.
It's okay. Disney will change their thumbnail every June just to make them feel better. It's just I don't know. It's weird to just go that far and then just backtrack. But I was going to say the armor thing in the beginning. There's elements that kind of remind me of it, and I don't know if anyone's going to remember this, but Ally McBeal, whenever she had some kind of like embarrassing issue or something like that, something cartoony would happen around her.
Right.
She would get shot with arrows or something. So yeah, I think that's pretty funny and fun to kind of have that over exaggerated thing happen to some kind of like embarrassing situation, because I think as animators we kind of always imagine something like, I don't know, if you got shot down by someone, just getting a mallet and hitting it on your head or something.
And I think the style is interesting on the animation style itself.
It does remind me of Steven Universe a little bit.
So that's what I was going to say. It's kind of like if you made Steven Universe, but slightly more stop motion-y designs and things, and then animated it like Pixar. That's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It looks good. I don't know that there's really anything else to say about it until it comes out. But it does actually kind of look pretty good, and it just sucks that Disney keeps just shooting themselves in the foot. Yeah. I mean, I know that they're a big company and everything, but I mean, I don't know. I feel like if you're going to make an attempt, if you're going to go in that direction, I think the thing that bothers people about big companies starting down that road and then getting cold feet is that's what happens to like smaller companies or smaller production that like, ooh, you know what, maybe, we're putting everything into this. We really just need this to be successful. Maybe we can do something but a big company could take a risk like that.
Yeah.
And I know that that's not how a big company gets big, but it still feels like if you're going to do it, you'd be the one to do it. You know?
You're not going to lose much if you're Disney. And
you could potentially gain a lot. And I just they start down the road and then they change it. They change it midstream. I think it's more painful than just like not doing it. But I guess kudos to the idea. Do you get points for like for because I don't know someone had to make the decision. someone probably creatively, really felt this way and was really trying to put this into the show. And then, business wise or production wise, they were either instructed to like pull it back or whatever. And it's hard when you have productions that have this many people in it. You don't know who is responsible for what, but I would like to think that it was a genuine feeling of wanting to put that storyline in the show. And then this is just something that happens in, the people that have the money and the people that are going to put this thing on air, just, quotes on air, on the internet. They tell you to do something and you have to do that thing. I don't know. It's a weird time right now. It would have been nice to stick the landing on it, I guess.
Yeah, for Disney to be like, hey, I know the world is kind of turning on you, but we got you.
Right. But the show looks good. The animation looks good, and it looks like it could be, it looks like it has redeeming value on speaking about emotion and speaking, and not just for kids, but also for adults, because there's, I think there's like the coach or the referee, I forget which one it is. And then there's the mom. And, so yeah, it could be good, but it looks really good. And for a first series, I mean, you're going to want to make it look good. I just wonder how much it cost. That's kind of what I'm curious about.
Yeah. Will the production fail? There's also that one character that has no nose that I found pretty kind of moving on to something I kind of stumbled upon. Wander to wander. Wander to wander. So this kind of just went on my feed, and I just thought it was so unique looking. Much like the movie we haven't watched yet, but it's on our list, Stop Motion, where it seems to kind of use different stop motion in a real world. And the style of it just looks interesting. It's the director is Nina Gantz. And in an interview, she said it took her about 8 years to get this going. And a lot of the sculptures in there, apparently, like, she wanted it to have that kind of.
Just want to say this is an animated short.
Oh, it's an animated short, by the way.
Yeah.
And the trailer, I'm sure there's a link somewhere that Steven's going to provide.
I will. I'll put it up there. It's trailer talk, man. Like I said in the beginning, it'll be up there.
Yeah, but it has like a just really kind of fun and eerie. I haven't seen something like this since I guess Anna Melissa, yeah, at the Shivering Truth that was on Adult Swim.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It just has this kind of really bizarre look to it. And yeah, style-wise, I would say you can compare it to that. A lot of the sculptures were made from, like they had molded them out of clay and then scanned them, did 3D printing. So I know a lot of I think like, oh my God, Leica does that a lot, 3D kind of printing and stuff like that. And a lot of times I do have an issue with things looking so smooth that it just kind of takes away the stop motion element. But I think this found like a good balance on how to do that.
The making of was kind of interesting because it looked like they did model them out of clay and then they 3D scanned them. And then they took that 3D scan and then 3D printed them. And I was trying while I was watching, they don't explain it really in that behind the scenes, at least in the video that you shared me. But I think what they do is it's like they have to make various heads and mouths and things like that. But they're going to want to combine certain features. They're going to want different eyes and different expressions and stuff like that. And probably I don't know if someone like gets their face scuffed up or something like they're going to need to alter them, right? And I think probably from an assets list, they probably had base designs for faces and for bodies and things like that, and then they created some other ones, and then essentially they scan them and then they mix and match them.
Yeah.
So I think they are all handmade, 3D scanned, and then 3D printed. So they could get, I don't know, maybe something like, hundreds of heads out of doing mixing and matching dozens of heads. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
That's what I think they probably did. And then, once it's 3D printed, they still have to like paint them and, stuff like that. So it looked really interesting. When I was also reading that behind the scenes, the short was different originally. And then they were years into developing the project, and COVID hit, and the co-creator, the co-director of or co-writer, I guess, of the story went over to a different project, and so she just rewrote the script with someone else, and made the focus on those. The little humans, the little, as she says, the little puppetry characters, and how they deal with grief. It's a story about how they each individually deal with grief in their own way, and so it became like a completely different, not completely different, but it became a different short than had originally intended. And I feel like I understand that feeling, because I am reworking a project that I also started like 15 years ago. And, after all that time, you kind of have different thoughts and you have different feelings, and you feel like, oh, I should, this is what I want to say now, or this makes more sense now, or, so it seems like it worked because it is nominated for an Oscar. It made the short list, and then the Oscar nominations were just announced. So it's nominated for Best Animated Short.
I really love the shot of the character sitting on the VCR watching TV, and because it just.
Oh, you mean the trailer?
Yeah, in the trailer. I didn't see the movie, but that shot just reminds me of like. When I just started working with stop motion and just using your house as the environment, and it's just kind of fun to when you think of stop motion, you don't necessarily need to have a tiny little house for the character and all that stuff. You can just use that world, your surroundings and stuff. So yeah, just looks like a fun, interesting project. So hopefully I get to see it. That's one of the that's the level of quality I have to see to watch a Oscar nominated animated film.
Sure. Well, I mean, if it's
now I know that
quality,
animals are getting murdered in
Wild Robot.
I was gonna say iRobot.
Well, if it's quality that you want, I mean, then you look no further than A.I. Watch.
You've been living in an uptown world.
You know what? You can't sing when music is playing in the new sequence.
You're correct. I apologize.
We've been doing this 10 years now. A studio in Japan is using AI to in between its characters.
Yes.
Did you see the video that I shared?
Wait, there's a video on there? Oh man, I'm full.
Okay. K&K Design in Nagoya is apparently last December in a story posted on NHK, which is it's like the BBC for Japan.
Yeah.
Had a whole story on how they used AI in order to save time, which they said would take days to like animate this thing, and this thing was only done in like 5 hours, and it was doing a keyframe, one keyframe to another keyframe, and then it interpolated between the two images. The video that I shared, by the way, it starts out with a guy who's a manga artist, and he's talking about using AI to like help him like ink and color and do things and like finish it. He like trained it on his own art, and so he would then use AI to kind of iterate things because he's getting older now and he can't draw as much, but he still wants to create things. I don't know how old he is, but that was the first story. And the second story is this small, like, I don't know, it's like 5-person studio or something. And they draw a character, they draw the character in a different position, stuff, and then they type in what they want it to do, and the computer, just like we've seen in the Runway videos, it will interpolate that. It will, in between that, and then they have to go back and they have to fix it. Now, what I was seeing on the fixing is essentially what they change the movement going from right to left. They change the head turning and the hair, and they change the color. Like, they changed basically everything about it. But what they were saying was that it saved them so much time, and I think what's going on is they use that not just as reference. Sometimes they actually use the images, but they'll cut it out. They'll like lasso tool, they'll cut out the body, and so they get the rotation of the body and stuff, and they'll cut out the head, and they'll kind of like line it up, to make sure it's not going from right to left on the screen. They'll adjust the timing, and then they'll make the head turn sooner rather than slowly turn over the course of the whole thing. So they're kind of making directorial decisions on, well, I want the head to turn while she's taking her first step rather than slowly turn over the entire walk from right to left. So you have the assets, and then you're changing those assets. It's as though someone had animated it, and then you give notes on that animation. And I guess they're saying it's faster for us to brute force do those notes on something that's already done than it is to blank page it and do it from the ground up.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this?
It's a tough situation, because if you're a smaller company, I think that it is very helpful, time saving. And I know that, AI can be a very touchy subject in our industry. But I just feel like if you're using your projects and you're an independent studio trying to kind of get your project out there, if you're using it for a tool that can help you, I mean, there's so many things that we have now that would be probably considered cheating in a way, switching to digital. I'm sure like that was like a huge issue, not being able to use cells. And I think we did talk about that before.
Oh, we talked about that. Yeah.
Something like inbetweens and stuff where you can kind of feed your art and then and they are, working as well, trying to fine tune it and stuff. I just don't think it's the Coca-Cola generating a whole commercial level of like
right
controversy.
Right. Well, Coca-Cola, yeah, it's one of the biggest ads. It's one of the biggest ad campaigns every year. Is the Coca-Cola like Christmas time Santa drinking a Coca-Cola, the polar bear, everything. It's always a big deal. And when they use generative AI to do that, it was hard to understand. Why even do these big commercials in the first place if you don't find value in putting money and creativity behind it? Because if you don't find value in the actual creative expression of the commercial that you're doing, why put the effort in the first place?
Yeah.
Like, why ever put the effort in? Why not ever have, I kind of think of those, you remember those Blimpie commercials where it was like, I don't know, there was just a guy that was in front of he was cutting deli meat and he had Blimpies on his shirt, and he was like, we were told by our ad campaign that repetition was the key to a good commercial, and we were trying to come up, and he's just talking, but he's the meat, the meat cutter, you know what I'm saying, at the deli, where he's like pulling it back and pushing it forward. It keeps covering up Blimpies. and he keeps revealing blimpies on his shirt like over and over again.
Yeah.
That's a conceptual thing that doesn't cost any money. It is creative. It is, thing. I'm just thinking like, if I guess it's hard to understand why you would do that in the first place. This, to what I'm understanding, your point is this doesn't feel like that case because this is like a 5-person studio. It's a very small studio. I don't know what they're. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if this is they possibly won a bid to animate something over someone else, right? That's how studios as vendors usually work. There's a project, and let's say if there's not a first look deal, if there's not a studio that has a deal with another production studio that has a deal with an animation studio, and they say like, okay, well, we're going to send you all of our stuff, or maybe they just ran out of stuff and they go, okay, we have this other project, we're going to need to send it out to other studios, and then there's a bid process. Yeah. Hey, we're considering you. How would you tackle this? How would you do this? Put together a bid sheet that says how much under what costs you could do this and what result and how you would do that, kind of pitch us on it. Okay, so maybe this 5-person studio was like, we can do it for much less cost. We have only 5 people, but we're using this AI to help make this thing happen. And they won the bid over a studio that was like, not huge, but maybe 10, 15 people. That was going to cost more. They were going to get it done in around the same amount of time because they had more people, but it was going to cost more because they have to pay more people. In that case, technically speaking, AI was used to win that bid, which gave jobs to a smaller number of people than it would have if that 5-person studio was not able to use AI to say, this is how much we're going to be able to do with this budget. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So in that case, you could say through this line of thinking, this very linear line of thinking, AI costs jobs. That's kind of the way that it, or you could say AI made it possible for this 5-person studio to be able to do something at a level that they were never able to do before. They never had the option of doing it before, and now they can play at a higher level, and compete at a higher level.
Yeah.
Where I feel like the results that you're going to get are probably not going to be as good as what you would get from that 15-person studio, because that 15-person studio is going to actually decide what they want to do with the animation and then make that happen, where the 5-person studio is drawing these 2 keys and then they get something. And if they can only get, whatever assets they get, they go like, listen, we just got to go. We just got to continue, working. And so they'll just work with what they have and, drive forward. Good enough. Let's go. It's probably not going to be as good.
Yeah. The tricky part is saying like, oh, we use a little AI just to kind of help speed up the process so we can show you what's possible, that when, once you hire us, we'll have animators do it. And the tricky part is the company not saying, oh, let's just keep doing that. Like the goal, I think, is to get other people to work for your project. And
I think their goal is simply to win the project, and then they're going to do it with whatever budget they can, whatever budget they have, and whatever time they have. They're just trying to use whatever tech they can to get the jobs that they can, which is good for this 5-person, maybe not as good for the 15-person that is not using this tech. Now, if the 15-person studio did use this tech, they might be able to say, we can do it for less budget, not as small as the 5-person, but we can do it really fast. And look at how good this is going to look, because we're only using it for these scenes or these scenes. And like, we have all these people. So I think that maybe as it becomes more proliferated in the industry, and like every studio is now playing on the same, if every studio has it, it's like if everyone has superpowers, then no one will be super,
Yeah,
it's a very syndrome esque idea. Syndrome was his name, right, from The Incredibles? I haven't seen that movie in forever. Jason Lee, not Jason Scott Lee. We're still a bit in the infancy of how AI stuff being used, and saying AI really just means it's just big data models. It's just training something on a lot of information that already exists out there. I think we're still in the infancy to seeing how that is going to be used in every industry. But I really do feel like right from the get-go, I mean, it's just amazing. I was just talking about this. Sorry if I'm monologuing here, but like, it's just amazing how all of this came about because a couple of companies. You got ChatGPT, and then the what was it? DALL-E was the first one, right? And then Midjourney made it better. But like it was like ChatGPT and DALL-E like come out, and everyone's. So you have the text side of things, the text side of things, like the writing side of things, and then you have the art side of things. And I think people in general, just the general populace thought like, oh, it's here. AI is here. It's going to start doing everything because it can do both of these things that are creative that we thought was only possible by humans, and now it can do all this stuff, and it's just going to take over everything. And some people found that very exciting. Some people found that very scary. And then companies just started dumping money into it, just as much money as possible. Just, we need our own AI thing. And now you have Microsoft 360 like changing the price of its annual plan and not telling anyone. The reason is because, well, you get this AI stuff, and like, well, we don't want that AI thing, so you either cancel it or you have to go down to a different plan. But they basically are just siphoning out this money because they have to recoup their costs somehow, because they dumped all this money into AI. And I truly believe that we have basically seen the upper limit already, like right early on, first 2-3 years of this stuff. That's about as good as it's going to get. And then from there, it's just going to be how you use it.
Oh, definitely.
That's the way I think.
It was
it may get
a fast evolution to where it is now. But like, I just remember everyone
I think it's just petering off.
And it was just like, oh, look, this is how we would look if we were an illustrated image. And everyone's just using it for their profile pictures. And, let's see how Tony Soprano would look as Super Mario. And then
you mean like emogens?
Mogens?
Emojens. It's using generative AI to create new emojis on the new Apple operating system.
Oh, yeah. I think it's just going to be something that eventually aunts are going to use. And then people are going to use it to stuff like this, how to...
Like
things.
Our next story.
Like our next story, who's kind of doing the same process. The creator of Undergrads, there was an MTV show in the early 2000s or mid 2000s about college kids and stuff. He's the show, he didn't own it for a long time. MTV kind of owned it and put it away. And he recently brought the rights to it. And he's planning on doing a movie. He's doing this completely on its own. And he's recently made a post of how he's kind of doing the same process with in-betweens and little kind of, stuff like background characters using AI elements. Which, looking at it, especially the thumbnail, people kind of get a little wary. But for the most part, a lot of the feedback has been pretty positive. And he's using Runway to do this. What you mentioned earlier, the last.
Yeah, I think it's basically similar to the last one. I feel like there's actually not a ton to say about this story. I probably should have introduced it. I probably should have told, like, let's go on to that. But we already talked about everything regarding this one here, so maybe I'm just going to leave it there as a link. But this is one person. But didn't he also do like a Kickstarter?
Yeah, he did a Kickstarter as well, and I think the money just kind of ran out, and he doesn't want to ask for more money.
Which totally makes sense, and now he's using this, and he's probably spending a lot of time doing these updates, much like I found when I would spend like 4 hours doing an entire part of the process for the Easter Bunny short, and then I would spend like a week and a half editing the video blog, and I was like, something about this is like not helping the process. It's taking me forever because of the video blogs. But I think it was interesting him showing it and showing the limitations of it and how it is. And I think that in-betweens are probably going to be something that is going to be used by generative AI. But again, I think it's going to be for any shot that doesn't really need that kind of attention. You're always going to want to actually animate, to make decisions on your main characters, on your main action, on your main stuff. But if you have characters that need to walk in the background, I'm just going to say, I feel like that's where it's going. And I feel like eventually we're just going to have to accept that background characters, crowds, maybe slight facial expression changes and things like that for a group of characters or for secondary characters, so that you can focus on your main character. Stuff like that is, I see that as totally being given to AI on smaller and mid-size budget projects to keep going, because people expect the line is flattening for what people expect in quality for TV and online stuff. You have stuff that is on TV that looks like one person made it, and you have stuff that's on YouTube that looks like a team of 100 people made it. And I think because it's so intermixed now that it's kind of just, it really is, the style doesn't really matter. It's kind of whatever you choose, and it's got to be something that, for whatever reason, this is the thing that people are going to click on, there's a crossover between this style and the tone of your show and the thing you want to say. And that's all, ironically, kind of part of marketing, is like, you have to make your show look like something that the people who are going to enjoy your show are going to want to click on, or I guess still click on. So it's just, as we always say with AI Watch, it's here to stay. But we are watching for the uses of AI in the industry to see how they're being used, how we feel about it, how, whatever. And I think, this is tough, because you got a 5-person studio that is bidding for stuff, and then this one is an independent project that this one guy is doing, but he did make a Kickstarter, and like you said, he doesn't want to ask for more money, but he's also behind. He's got to find a way to catch up that's not going to crush him. And I feel like there's, for that, I think everyone on the comments was like, yeah, this is totally fine. For the Japanese one, people are not feeling so great about that. Maybe because it's a studio that they won money for, but it's still a 5-person studio. So I don't know. We'll see how it develops.
Nothing's gonna beat that human touch. We love animation smears when you're turning your head and stuff, and just that fine touch that only a human can do.
It's true. And I think
that fine touch that only a human can do.
I feel like that's great. We came to the end of the stories. We did it in about a little over an hour. So it's time for rapid fire. You'll get caught up in it. I mean, rapid fire, it's we got to really, really go rapid because we're going over time. Rob's got to get to work, so we're going to try to spend less than a minute on each one of these stories, and we're just going to go through. Rob, there's a story of yours in here. I'm just going to go ahead. I'm just going to introduce them all so we can go. You got it? All right, yes. You ready?
Go.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, give me a second. And time for the first story. Rapid fire. The Blender add-on that made Flow's water possible is now $50 in the Blender, whatever they whatever portal thing they have that they call it.
$50 for water?
$50 for
this
water's
economy.
I know.
Thanks, Biden.
There's so many things. There's that, and then there's like landscape and mountains and things like it. It's the thing that helps generate different effects, I guess.
Yeah. Now, in the AI category, would this be like, oh, why don't you animate your own water? I think it's just something that.
No, I think it's a plug-in. There's lots of like water plugins and things. It's kind of like a not a particle system necessarily. Maybe it's a particle system. I don't know, but. I think people are very used to plugins, and yeah, we're gonna get closer and closer to that kind of thing that AI is gonna be used in lots of plugins and things.
Makes people's hair look great.
Yeah, plugins, plugs. Rapid fire. This is something you shared with me a long time ago. Akira the documentary, which I had to look up and find that it was a person who did it.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like an official. An official kind of thing, but
it's a YouTuber, I think, right?
Yeah, comic book girl. But they have some pretty what's I'm looking for, the sources, interviewees, reliable sources. Jerry Beck, Akira is one of those things where if you not to keep going back to AI, but this was all made by people, and you could tell the quality, and it's just something. It's one of I think my favorite. I'm iffy about anime a lot, but by far animated movie, anime in general is just a great film. So I do.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I am interested in seeing the documentary because I love seeing people talk film, and one of the greatest animated films of all time. It's great to put a documentary to that. All right, rapid fire. The Oscar nominations were announced. I'm just going to read them out now. Animated feature: Flow, Inside Out 2, Memoir of a Snail, Wallace and Gromit: Vengeance Most Foul, and Wild Robot. Flow obviously won the Golden Globes, and so I think everyone's kind of thinking it's between Flow and Wild Robot. Flow was actually nominated twice because it was nominated for Best Foreign Film as well.
I love Wallace and Gromit, and I thought the latest one was great, but I think I've not seen Wild Robot. I'm going to say Wild Robot's going to be the winner for this one.
Oscars do tend to go with the more popular version just because of how we know that they vote. Animated short film: Beautiful Men, In the Shadows of the Cypress, Magic Candles, Wander to Wonder, and Yuck with an exclamation point. I guess we're just saying Wander to Wonder because that's the only one that we have talked about today.
Yeah, I'll say that.
Sure. And then visual effects: Alien Romulus, Better Man, Dune, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and Wicked.
Oh my God! Planet of the Apes and Better Man battling.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I gotta go. Dune. I'm just always shocked how little Dune Part 1 and Part 2 are nominated for stuff, but Dune was just amazing. Listen, Alien Romulus was great, but you get points deducted for the weird deep fake over an animatronic face that they did for that.
Boy, I did not see.
Yeah, it was weird. And I haven't seen Wicked yet, but I've seen clips and I've seen trailer, and I just think it looks like garbage. So I'm just.
That's your review right there. Yeah, I think that's one of the I'm just not going to see. It's just I don't.
I'll see it. But yeah, no, it just I don't know. Something about it just feels like it's like they purposefully decided to make to mute one of the most colorful, fantastical worlds in one of the greatest films of all time. They're just like, what if we just made it duller?
Yeah.
Like it's clearly a choice. Anyway. That's it. That is the end of Rapid Fire. I'm going to give my recommendations here. There's a visual effects atlas that's up that's really interesting if you want to know where the visual effects hubs are. And there is an article that was really interesting, unpacking the alien antics of the day the Earth blew up, a Looney Tunes movie that you should read. It was an interesting read. I just didn't have any.
I like
to put it in the story.
The Ed Wood connection to that That's,
yes.
I'm very
Yeah,
excited
totally.
for that. Yeah. It's one of those things where it seems like a concept that was put out and it would have never made it to theaters, and I'm glad that it is.
Yeah. And that'll do it for this episode of the Rubber Animation Podcast. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Robbie, thank you for staying later. We're going over by like 20 minutes here, so
I'm fired.
Thank you. And why don't you plug your own stuff so that people can go
Rob
follow you.
UFO on Instagram and YouTube and TikTok for now until it's banned again, and Blue Sky right now. I just made an account yesterday. I only have one friend. Steven Brooks, how about you?
Well, I'm Stephen Brooks. I am the Rubber Onion everywhere, and that does include Blue Sky. Basically, if you're just on a thing, just understand, sign up for a thing, just always type in, always. This is my thing. Always type in Rubber Onion. Just try to find me. Just try to see me. And if you have any questions, shoot me a message on any of the places that you know for me to be and say, like, is this you? And I can confirm yes or no. But I do try to sign up for all the new stuff. So yeah, I'm on Blue Sky as well. I just haven't used it because I can't quite figure out how to use it just yet, and I'm not that motivated yet, so I will eventually.
I'm in the same.
Anyway, we will see you in a couple weeks. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Goodbye.
See ya.